Good morning, Fisayo. How are you doing today?
Fine. Good morning. Good morning to all our viewers. Good morning, everybody out there.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Lagos. Yeah.
Excellent. So this is how you can be a part of the conversation. You can head on to our YouTube channel. We're streaming live on YouTube, youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos, and use the chat box option to send us a message. If you'd like to send us a WhatsApp message as well, that's fine. Go on to WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. Rotus, we have some news in the tech world, don't we?
Yeah, the European Commission, which is the executive arm of the European Union, has put forth a proposal. They've been chasing this proposal for about 10 years, though. So this has been going on for a while. Fisayo, I want to get your take on this. So they want all chargers to be the same Type-C charger that are used on Android phones. I guess they're making the argument that it reduces waste. If you think about buying a phone that has a user particular, if you think about all the chargers in your life, right? And so they're saying it will reduce waste. But of course, I think the person, or rather, the company that will be affected most is Apple. Fisayo, what do you think of what the European Commission here?
We've always known that the EU is a regulatory act, right? But I think that they're taking this thing too far, right? Trying to force companies to use a certain type of charger. According to the argument by Apple, say it will start with innovation, because there are different things that people think about before they choose a certain type of charger on their phones, right? Maybe it's going to be size. Apple wants a certain size of their phone. They don't want their phones to be bigger than a certain size. And then, of course, the kind of charger they have on it, or the charging port they have on it, determines, help them, put all of those things in place. Trying to force them to use a certain type of charger just, makes it difficult and practically impossible for them to innovate, on that side of the business. At some point they might want to not even use the charging port at all, right? So how would you, run through some of those? And of course, we've started seeing innovations along those lines, where we've seen phones, charging other phones. We've seen phones charging your watch, all of that kind of thing. So it's getting to that point where chargers, chargers directly, or phones directly on charging port, might be its time might be going off. For instance, the earbuds that people use today, right? At some point, Apple removed the earphone jack, from their phone. So at some point, you could see some of those type of innovations, happen. So what would the EU regulators say there? That every phone must have it? Again, it doesn't make sense to try and start regulating the look and feel. The argument from their own perspective is that the customers win, because if all the customers just have to buy one charger, irrespective of the kind of phone they use, it's a lot more convenient, for the customers. But I think that history has found out that customers choose the product that they are. Customers choose products based on different things, right? Some people just want the latest iPhone, irrespective of how expensive, how cheap it is, right? They made that decision. So it doesn't make sense for the European Commission to help make that decision on behalf of the customers, right? It's customers that have the right. Okay, this is the phone I want to use because it has this emotional appeal to me, or because it's cheap, because it's this, because it's that. If I make that decision, I have to live by my decision. I think it's feckless to just try and see that it can help control people's life and emotions. It's just so irresponsible, right? People should make decisions. Okay, if I decide to buy an iPhone and an Android phone, right? I have to live with the what's it called? With the consequences. Yeah, that is the consequence of my action. Right, so trying to force everybody to use one charger doesn't just make sense to me, and I think the European Commission should not try and do this. Makes no sense, absolutely not.
See, you mentioned AirPods look, I'm going to confess something here because I still use. Look at my wired earphone stuff. I feel weird wearing this now. I feel like I feel compelled to get AirPods because they look. I mean, I know they can get lost easily because they're not attached to a wire. They look. They make wired headphones look outdated. I mean, I feel funny sometimes when I'm walking out. I've checked AirPods. AirPods 50,000. So I don't know how to go and buy those and then they get lost. But do you think, because you mentioned it, you've actually preempted my next question. Is that some phones are using wireless charging now? Will something like this force innovation to say, oh yeah, forget it, we're not going to use charging ports anymore, and then where phones will now go?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Apple introduced that idea of removing earphone jack from their phones or from their newer phones, right? People got angry, right? About it doesn't make sense. Why would they do that? It would get lost. It would do this. It would do that, right? But somehow, I mean, it became a trend, right? Afterwards, that other phone manufacturers started making versions of it. Right.
There's a 15K version. There's some people saying iPods for 15,000 naira.
You know, people started making versions of it, right? And that's what we've seen, especially when innovation is great, is good, right? I mean, I've not bought I don't use Apple products because I think that being locked in an ecosystem is not what I want to be, right? All of that, and I don't want to be paying for storage, spaces because anyways. Right. So I don't use Apple, for instance. So to your question specifically, right? Do I think that this would help drive innovation past, the question of Type-C charger? I mean, right, this is 2021. European, like this, we're talking about Type-C charger. Really? That's what we're talking about in 2021, Type-C charger. It makes absolutely no sense, right? So I think that this will probably force conversations away from Type-C charger to say, okay, well, you want to force us to use Type-C charger? Okay, when will we use Type-C charger again? We won't use any charger at all. You want to be mad, right? We can be mad together. And I think that I can just show up and everybody will just move off, right? But I also think that people like Samsung want that to happen, right?
Yeah.
I think people like Samsung want that to happen. Other Android phone manufacturers, probably want that to happen because they're already using the Type-C charger on their phones already, right? So, hey, let's see how they wins the politics, but I just doesn't think that it makes sense at all.
All right. So we have some comments. By the way, let me just mention, Rotus, if it would influence your decision on the pods or the boards, depending on what you want to use. It's actually, I find I've had mine, and I can be quite forgetful in terms of what I have on, but I've had mine for over a year. It actually stays. So I found it more, so I bend, do everything, and it doesn't fall off. So they've done the technology in such so don't be sounding like you are from the 1960s.
Expensive, I beg. I'm afraid I lose things. I'm afraid I'm losing them. Actually, you know what?
Yeah.
I made this point the other day. They could actually, I don't know, Sha, maybe push up insurance because I think if I'm spending 100,000 on AirPods and they can get lost easily, it might push me to want to get them insured and again. Of theft, who knows?
In other parts of the world, that's what happens. It's only in Nigeria, insurance is not yet as big as it is in other parts of the world. So perhaps that's something to look into. But let me something else I was going to mention whilst we were talking about the argument for a single-use charger, so a charger for all devices, is the environment, like you pointed out, Rotus. And so even though the EU cannot, like Fisayo mentioned, legislate on people's personal choices, they do have a responsibility to the environment. And sometimes you make decisions for the environment, even though it might not be very ideal for everyone, So that's why as long as it's not hurting people.
I totally disagree with you, Ayo, right? This is tyranny, as far as I'm concerned, right?
How about when they tell you
people use environment as excuses. People use greater good as excuse to legislate for you. And I think that's what is happening here, right?
Okay.
We've heard that thing about, it's for the greater good. So because it's for the greater good, you must live your life this way. It's for the greater good, you must use certain pronouns. It's for the greater good, you must use, makes no sense. It's some form of tyranny, and I won't accept that at all, right? I won't allow, if I want to live my life, I should be able to make my choices and live with the consequences. I should be able to make my choices and live with the consequences. I don't care, it's my choice.
The world doesn't work like that. How are you going to find? There's so many things that already goes against this thing you're asking for, that we should make our choices and we shouldn't, because you're not the only one that is. If it was just you, your decision is going to impact the environment, which impacts people wider than yourself. So they have a responsibility. Let me let the people come in. So we have comments. Ned says, Fisayo, where do you draw the line between innovation and standardization? Hold that thought. Let me take a few more and then you can respond to all the people who have come for you. Ugo Collins says, Fisayo is sounding to me like an emotional iPhone fan. I like the idea of a convenient one-size-fits-all charger. Cheaper too. And who says we need to keep using chargers forever? That's a thought. Adeyinka from First Access, Fisayo, you didn't get the point. They want to agree on one type that all will comply with. And then Rotus says, Cisco Delgado, AirPods and Bluetooth earpiece are using Bluetooth technology. I don't know why people are crazy about AirPods. Kunle says, no charging port at all is what is good for the environment. We have from Mick Toll, I need to weigh in on your iPhone charger saga. I disagree with your analyst on the charger. Apple already uses Type-C on their iPad and on the Mac. Apple is just being stubborn, and because of royalty, I think that's the reason they want to change it. And then we have Kewe. Kewe says, good morning, I'm Kewe. I think maybe they want to simplify things. It's innovation world. That's how I see it in terms of simplifying things. And also because Apple, we know how they keep launching new products so that we can keep buying new things that are exactly the same with just a few modifications to the newer models. So perhaps this, like someone had mentioned, standardization. So Fisayo, now you can respond to the...
Number one, I think everything stems from that single argument, standardization versus innovation. So let me extend this argument a bit, right?
Okay.
To say, at what point would EU feel that standardizing operating system is the next best thing to do? Everybody should just use Android because standardization. Or no. I don't like the fact that mechanics are struggling with BMW engines and Toyota engines, and so everybody should just use a single engine, right? That's standardization. Right? So that argument around standardization, this is me extending it so that we can understand or say, okay, every house should look a certain way because standardization, right? So that argument around standardization doesn't work because people want personal choice. People want phones to look a certain way. I remember there was a statement Donald Trump made at some point that I'm not going to buy Apple products here because they try not to increase the size of their phones. People want something else. Okay, standardization, every phone should be standardized because of the pockets, right?
Yeah.
Again, it stifles innovation. It stifles what you can do. So the decision to use a certain charger is a decision you don't take lightly because the size of the port takes space on your phone. And if you don't want a phone to be a certain size, you have to be deliberate about the kind of charging port you use. And that's simple. The argument around iPad, they're larger devices, so you can use the Type-C charger on it, right? But for Apple devices, their charging port is significantly smaller, right? And that's because their phones are to a large extent smaller in certain respects compared to other phones. And that's why they make some of those phones are made that way, right? You can't just wake up and say, okay, now this is how you're going to do it forever, right? Just doesn't work.
All right, we're out of time now.
Well, real quick, I know we're out of time. The iPhone 13 Max Pro at current exchange rates, it's almost *1 million naira. That is.
You still see some people.
Think about
*1 million naira.
Rotus in this Lagos is Victoria Island and Ikoyi. You will find it Lekki. For standardization purposes, they will buy it. All right, thank you so very much. Always an interesting conversation for on Tech Friday and every other day really on Business Express. So do join us every day, Monday to Friday, 6:30 to 6:45 a.m. You can send questions, to Rotan Codes before the show, and he usually responds. And next up, we have some great music lined up for you. Thank you, Fisayo. Thank you, Rotus.
Thanks,
we have some great music lined up for you. And then at 7:30 a.m., we'll bring you today's edition of Freshly Pressed 981. This is Smooth 98.1. I'm Ayo Mairo-Ese here with Valentine Oho.
With critical focus on the Nigerian economy, we see the bigger picture.
Thank you, everyone, for staying tuned.
Business Express on Smooth.